It's Wednesday, that means it's DeFi day. Let's take a look at some DeFi charts, DeFi adjacent charts, DeFi maximalist charts. Things are going quite well in DeFi land as a group. Lagged ETH slightly, but all in all, making up for it in the past couple days here. The ETH price chart looks fake, looks not real. Doesn't happen ever like that, so keep that in mind. If you are euphoric, now's a good time to start rolling profits into other stuff. Not investment advice, but that thing is going to have a nasty reversal that's going to catch a bunch of people off guard sooner rather than later. And you want capital to buy the freaking dip when it happens. So let's take a look at TVL, which for the most part is based on the underlying, which as a percentage could be significantly Ethereum or any other ERC20 token. So if all of them are lifting off, TVL is going to lift off. The more of this that's stablecoin, the less lift off you will see unless there's a supply issuance. But either way, we're basically very close to all-time highs again based on DeBank's calculations as well as DeFi Llama's calculations. Some of the stuff is triple or quadruple counted, so you got to keep that in mind. No calculation here is perfect, but I trust DeBank's calc over anybody else. Obviously, EIP 1559 has been huge so far, thanks to NFT minting, as well as the dirty little secret that very few as a percentage of transactions are actually adopting EIP 1559, meaning many people are overpaying for fees, and it's making this whole thing look much better than it is. So keep that in mind. There's always something going on in the background when it comes to crypto. So I predict this is going to be a lot like SegWit, where you're going to see like slow adoption over time. Certainly not a gigantic swath of adoption quickly, which is fine, but just be aware of the ETH maxis selling you a bill of goods that this thing is amazing. And it is. It's the perfect pumpamental, but very few people, 25% or less, are adopting that at this current moment in time. Now, that's not going to affect DeFi prices per se in a negative way. The more ETH we burn, the more anything we burn, the better, right? Pumpamentals. People care little about the facts and care mostly about the pumpamentals. DeFi back at the 10K level, it had a series of falling wedges, double bottom, inverted head and shoulders. It was a chart pattern soup down here. I would like to see volume pick up again, but it did break through range resistance back into the previous range, back into the previous VPVR levels, pending golden cross here. So things are happening as expected and what you want to see if you're bullish at this level. The things to watch for next as this approaches its target, ETH is like at a 13K equivalent on this index. This is the DeFi perp, but what you want to watch for next is a Rsi Divergence. As you get a series of higher highs, you're going to get a series of lower highs in RSI eventually. Maybe not in the next week, but probably in the next 2 weeks. And that may persist as you get continued highs, depending on how far this thing goes. If this is a whole nother new cycle, this could just go for 2-3 months, right? But you got to pay attention to what RSI looks like up here. In any case, it's bullish no matter how you want to look at this. I'll start with SNX because SNX doesn't really look like any other coin right now, in that it has some sort of triangle Adam and Eve situation, pending bull cross. Target is 18 to 20 basically, and it's going to get back in the VPVR range, back in the yearly pivot range, but this looks fine for up. It just doesn't look like everything else does. Most things look like comp, where they're in the process of breaking up based on an inverted head and shoulders or cup and handle. Comp has a bull cross. I'm fully confident that this thing lifts off eventually. It's a bit odd that this was the best looking setup for me, and it is the slowest mover in the group so far. It was the best looking setup because it had such a clear horizontal to move up, but it hasn't done that yet. Still looks fine. I'm patient with it. I'm not going to rotate out of that anytime soon. It looks like it's well on its way to that level. Aave blasting off with a bull cross, inverted head and shoulders resolving. There's not really too much analysis to be done here. If you are not positioned for any of this stuff. I would focus on stuff like comp or SNX that hasn't really broken out yet relative to stuff like Aave. That's, this might 2x from here, but everything else that hasn't broken out yet, to me, has a better risk reward. Maker well on its way with a bull cross, a continuous bull cross since October, since mid 2020. He had this inverted head and shoulders diag, a threatening of a death cross, and found support here with some volume. It looks good for up. I did a video on that yesterday. It looks good for 4,200 in the near term. Uni had a threat of an ugly looking descending triangle, morphed into a W double bottom, found a love in a lonely place, got a bull cross, and it is within its W double bottom projected target, 28 to 31 here. So anything after this is a bonus based on the consolidation range. And again, you're watching for any sort of bearish div, very similar to earlier in the year from January to March. You had a series of highs and series of bearish divergences, which we very well may see again at this exact same level from 33 to 39 over the next few weeks. So I'd watch for that. Sushi, based on the cloud, it looked like it wanted 14 in like mid-July, and it's well on its way with a bull cross at 12 currently, 5,200 bull cross. And again, I'd watch for this RSI. All these charts are the exact same. The analysis is the exact same. If you are picky about things, or if you are in one camp or the other, if you're a sushi maximalist versus uni, whatever, that's fine. But if you step back, all these charts are behaving exactly the same. You had your inverted head and shoulders, and now it's breaking out kind of as expected. It's hitting the top side of this downward pitchfork. So to be maximally bullish here, you want this thing to consolidate sort of outside of this downward range. Otherwise, it risks pulling back to 6 or lower, whatever the midline is at the time. But this does look good for a pretty solid reversal case at this point. On the daily curve, much like uni, had the threat of more of a descending triangle than an inverted head and shoulders, but it still found a reversal, and it's well on its way for bull cross. This looks like it has more upside than some of the others. I'd put this in the SNX or comp camp rather than some of the other ones that have already moved up significantly. So this looks like it wants 280 to 3, somewhere in there in the near term. And again, watch for the bear divs, very similar to January, February, March. That's not for a couple weeks at this point, but it's something to always keep in the back of your mind. BAL, another slower mover relative to everything else, but it still looks fine for continuation. Looks more like comp, looks more like SNX. It's got a ways to go, I think. It's still basically at its horizontal resistance on the W, but I like whatever the measured move is here, 37, 33, it's all the same stuff. Again, watch for that bear div. In the coming weeks, BNT, very strong move off that aggressive diag, triple bottom, bull div, whatever you want to call it. Just starting to get overbought here. And again, just watch for the bear divs. It's pretty simple. This was a great bear div here. Higher high in price, lower high in RSI. And from then on out, it just sort of floundered before ultimately reversing. But that was the high, the current all-time high, I believe, effectively. So just watch for that again the next couple weeks. If you are trading that one, ZRX very strong off the lows here with that triple bottom bull div. And again, just watch for bearish divergences here on any continuous higher highs. All these are setting up for bull cross as well. So ideally, whether or not this thing keeps going or not, on all these charts, you get a bull cross and then you get a pullback to the 200-day moving average with a bull cross. That's where most people want to get in, because at that point, you have a dip that's satisfying enough as a mean reversion to then continue for more. So maybe this goes to 130, drops back down to 1, and then pushes for 150, 170, just as an example. 1 inch also didn't look like anything else, really. Didn't look like SNX, didn't look like Link, didn't look like comp. It had this smushed like supply reversal. It looked like a bunch of supply got sold very quickly and formed this falling wedge type reversal. Pretty strong bounce off the bottom. 200-day moving average finally starting to print here somewhere around 325, which is basically the previous range. So I'd watch for all of these that are approaching ranges like this. You know, what you didn't want to see on the DeFi perp is a rejection at the previous support turned resistance. You wanted to see what we saw, so that's good. And for all these charts like 1 inch that have a strong horizontal support turned resistance, you want to see that turn support again to be absolutely fully confident that this thing is ready for another leg up. But this could get a bullish a bullish cross here on the 5200 in the next couple weeks, probably by September. I would watch for that and then see where it goes from there. But again, ideally, even if things shoot past 450, this is going to retrace to 380, 360, whatever the 200-day moving average is at the time, and then probably goes again. It probably doesn't just keep going straight up past 650, right? All-time highs without some sort of retracement around that range low level 200-day moving average. You know, that's what I'd watch for. Melon, a bit of a weird one as well. Doesn't look like anything else. Really has never looked like anything else, probably because it's a lower cap. But it had a Coinbase listing. Melon is the Enzyme token. It has this perpetual diag that is coming to its natural end here with an ascending triangle / triple bottom inverted head and shoulders bull div. You know, I don't know. It's a mess. But still has a continuous bullish cross. It's back above VPVR resistance, and right now it just has this horizontal resistance at 120 to contend with before new all-time highs. So this looks fine to me as a be patient sort of trade setup for eventual higher highs. And I'll end with a link here, which looked, you know, maybe more so like BNT. It just had a super aggressive downward pressure, caught some VPVR support eventually, but was certainly risking multi-year breakdown with the death cross. You know, everything did what it needed to do in that it found support somewhere and bounced hard, right? It bounced very hard, very quickly in order to recross these moving averages. We went from mega bearish to mega bullish in 2 months, right? And now it looks like it's headed to 33. Eventually, this wants to return to this multi-year midline at currently 50, but eventually it'll be 75 plus. And you can only call, quote unquote, things like that if this does return back into this range, right? Here, you can't say, all right, this is the expectation is this recovers the 50 as it's breaking multi-month lows, right? Like that's not how this works. So when this thing turns a corner and gets back into this range, then you can confidently say, yeah, it's been here for 2-3 years. It's probably going to go back to that level again. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio I trade for Techemy Capital on Enzyme.Finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send ETH or USDC, or just watch what I'm doing. You can see AUM, performance, allocation. You can see all of the fun yield plays I'm getting into. You can see deposits, withdrawals, people getting in and out. So it's not a roach motel. You can see all the trades I'm making. You can see me swapping on a bunch of dexes, the amounts, the times. You can see probably the fees as well. Yeah, you can see the fees which we eat, the transaction fees. There is a fee associated with both of these funds, 2 and 20. But we only make money if the fund makes money using a high watermark system. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Happy trading.